I always ask, what do you want? And a lot of times people have a very difficult time cultivating that answer. I've been through so much training and so many different types of experiences, and I know myself so well that when somebody reacts to me in any way that would be considered derogatory, selfish, whatever labeling you want to put on it, I know that that is the area they need me to heal.
Janine Dancing Crow Bolon is a sacred clown, a shaman, a bell dancer, and a first chakra healer. After over 2 decades of working with an enlightened Hindu guru and the Native American grandmothers and grandfathers, she was initiated into the Thunder Clan after being struck by lightning. Janine provides shamanistic healing by the use of totem animals for relationships, wealth, and life path challenges. Today, we're going to talk about a variety of techniques to guide you in creating the lifestyle that you desire. When you take away even just one strategy, insight, piece of advice, or maybe Janine, as the sacred clown that she is, made you smile, then please share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. You're the reason the show has grown the way it has over the past 2 years. We don't run ads. We don't have sponsors. We do that because you are the best part of the Be Better team. So without further ado, let's talk to Janine Bolon herself. Janine, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I always get very excited when people, I finally come out of the closet, because I've been hidden as a clown for quite some time, and it's just now that I'm starting to reveal myself that way.
You've been exposed, Janine.
I've been
It's out
exposed, and trunks and all, as they say, pants and all.
So I want to preface this by just saying that I commend you for everything that you're doing, everything that you've done on your path. Like, we read that really amazing introduction, but there's like 5 other introductions that could have been in its place. And for those who don't know, Janine just released her 11th book, which is called Creating with the Divine. And Janine released that about a week ago. But Janine, you also help people to eliminate debts in their life, go after financial abundance. You help authors to market and sell their books so their message can be spread to more people, on top of what you do when you help people to heal and really become the best versions of themselves. So first, I just wanted to commend you for all the amazing things that you're doing in the world.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you, when it comes to all those things and different paths that you've traveled, you've mentioned that you use healing totems, which I have no idea what that is, by the way, and I assume we're going to talk about that. But you mentioned you use healing totems to help people who are struggling to find their life path.
Yes.
When it comes to you going down all these different paths, how did you find yourself, kind of a big question, but how did you find yourself here today, having experienced all that you've experienced? Was it ever difficult for you to find the next path to walk?
Yes, is the honest answer. It is a challenging journey in the sense of I knew my goal. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew the target I wanted, and that was self-realization. I think Maslow's people say self-actualization. I don't care what you want to call that, but I wanted to know 3 basic questions. Why am I on this planet that people say is the best thing since sliced bread? And to me, I'm walking through hell. And I was raised Irish Catholic, and I went through catechism and all that. And so I was kind of done with formalized religion when I was accused of being a witch when I was 17 years of age, by a well-meaning priest. Now, this was a good priest, okay? I don't want anybody to think he was a bad priest. He wasn't. He was just saying, because I could not identify whether what I was seeing was an angel or a demon, he called me a witch. And so I left the Catholic Church at that point. Now, the reason he was that way was he was from Ireland. He was a priest who was literally from Ireland. He was used to the mystical side, and he was like, you need different training. And so when he called me a witch, a lot of people have a paradigm, but please realize this man was from Europe. He was actually using that as a label of the psychic and spiritual gifts I had that I
Mm.
did not understand or know about. Something you may need to know about my background: my father was in the Navy. And so my early elementary school years, I was in Sasebo, Japan. I was learning Japanese along with English. And then when I went to middle school, I was on a small island in the Bahama Island chain called the Luthra. And there I was learning from this beautiful Irish Catholic priest and voodoo priestesses. So I was learning Catholicism alongside voodoo, which has white and dark elements to it. And so that was kind of my upbringing. Then my father retired from the military, and I spent high school in southern Missouri. That's when I thought I had gone to hell because because I was meeting people that had been alive for over 70 years and had never left their county. I
Mhm.
was meeting people that were fourth generation welfare and proud of it. Education in that particular county was not seen as an attribute for a woman. And so you can see where the whole paradigm that operated very well in that county, I'm not saying anything, that's a way of living, um, did not do well for my scholarship, did not do well for the type of personality I was, which was I could never read enough books.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which makes sense now that you have 11 books and you're actually working on a 12th and a 13th book, which
Correct.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you find yourself in this township essentially, and you're asking yourself the big question, why am I on this floating rock that's flying through the universe? Like,
Mhm.
when were you able to really say, I know why I'm here on this earth? Was it shortly after?
It was approximately 22 years after that. It was on December 26th of 2010. I know the exact moment because I went through, I always jokingly said, a Buddha took 7 days to receive his enlightenment. I said it took me only three, and that was because I was a mother of four children, and my husband at the time was out of town. Ergo, I only had 3 days to get my enlightenment through before I had to go back to being a mom. So that's the joke I like to share. But on December 26th of 2010, I was given my spiritual dispensation, and I have been doing my best to live up to that bar that was set for me to the best of my ability. Yeah.
Was that after your work with the Native American tribes?
Actually, I had started work with them about 3 years before I was found, by a group, and they asked me a very singular question, and they said, "Have you ever been struck by lightning?" And when I said yes, I was immediately shuffled to a group of Heyokas. Now, Heyoka is a Lakota term, to the best of my understanding. Realize I am not Native American, and so with cultural appropriation and all that understanding and awareness, I always tell people, if you wanna learn about the Native American communities, go talk to one. I are not it. My DNA is not that. And so I always ask that from people. However, I do help people heal and I use shamanistic techniques, but realize shamanism is worldwide. Medicine wheels are worldwide. They are not the providence of any one culture, although each culture, each tribe has their own paradigm on what a medicine wheel, a totem animal can be. And when I start moving into a tribe who has allowed me the honor of learning a little bit about what they do, then I will attribute that word, that system, that paradigm to that tribe. If people want to go deeper, I then say, you need to find a shaman who is of that tribe. Yeah. And so I like to qualify things that way because I'm such a scholar and I basically will learn from anybody who allows me to listen to their story.
Yeah, it's one thing to read a book about it. It's another thing to actually go and
Mhm.
experience it
Mhm.
firsthand, be initiated into the Thunder Clan. I would never even imagine doing that. So, like, when did you decide I'm going to go spend time with these shamans inside the actual tribes themselves rather than reading about it?
I did not make that decision, it was made for me. I did not make a conscious choice and say, "Oh, I'm gonna go hang out with a bunch of shaman." No, that's not how it worked. When I was in a particular house, we started having metaphysical experiences in that house that required me to contact a shaman to come into the house. Up until that point, I was just being a yogi. I was with Self Realization Fellowship. I was working as spiritually as a Kriyaban. And for those who are in that paradigm, they understand what I'm saying. I received my enlightenment on December 26th of 2010, and after that period of time, I was then called and invited by different shamans as they found out that I had been initiated by a group of Heyokas into being a sacred clown. I do not call myself a Heyoka because I do not have DNA that is Lakota, and I want to honor that tribe.
Yeah.
So I say I'm a sacred clown, but I got initiated in that tradition. Uh, After that occurred, that's when we moved forward with the medicine wheel and being a part. Other tribes found out about me, so I have worked with, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with the Nemanha and the Zuni and other tribes, Flatheads and Mohawks, and those are the English terms for a very old people that I've had the privilege of hearing their stories.
And are they living life very differently than the people in Missouri or really the people here in New York, even Colorado? Like, is their lifestyle dramatically different than the way that we are living?
Ah, this is challenging question for me to answer because of my perspective.
Okay.
I see people as people first. And so no matter what culture, what country, what continent I happen to be on, I've had a tribe ask me down to Uluru in Australia, and I leave there on April 2nd. And then I'll be going and attending a Sundance this summer out in the desert of California. And so when I travel around, I see people as people. So I don't really focus on the lifestyle as much as, are these people whole? Are they complete, or are they still suffering from second generational, third generational wounding that somebody with my complexion, somebody with my European ancestry, somebody with my life experience can help them see their wholeness and completeness? So I could answer that question very off the cuff of, oh, yes, of course, sir. They are absolutely living a different lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. But therein, you are living a different lifestyle from me. I'm a mile high in Colorado. That's my nest. I call it the crow's nest. That's where I go and sit and look at the rest of what's happening around the world. And you are on the East Coast, which is a very old and traditional place for Turtle Island, as some of the tribes call it. We live, you and I, on Turtle Island. And so, depending upon your perspective, yes, you will have a very different lifestyle.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
When you look at somebody, how are you able to determine if that person is, in the way that you said it, whole? What do you look for? How do you know?
I know because 90% of the communication that humans use is nonverbals. And so that's how I know. And also how they respond and react to me. Because I am a sacred clown, I am what they call a sacred mirror. I've been through so much training and so many different types of experiences, and I know myself so well that when somebody reacts to me in any way that would be considered derogatory, selfish, whatever labeling you want to put on it, I know that that is the area they need me to heal. So the more violent the reaction, and usually it's almost always like 99.9% of the time, the reaction is non-physical. It's
Yeah.
verbal. Okay, it's very verbal. If somebody is really highly triggered that they allowed a blue-eyed white woman, oh my God, into a man's ceremony, questions are asked vehemently, depending upon the paradigm that they're operating in. And so then it's up to those who invited me to educate the tribe on who and what I am. However, in that reaction, I know immediately that they're very traditional. They don't want a woman around. They want to share something with their men that has nothing to do with this blue eyed, white faced woman.
You mentioned the term healing when it came to that too. So if the person wasn't whole, then it gives you an idea of what area needs healing. Are
Correct.
you able to help people to heal if they have not acknowledged the fact that that specific area even requires healing in the first place?
My very presence within 10 feet of them starts the healing process.
Really?
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Well, as you know, I was trained as an analytical biochemist. And so I used to teach mathematics and physics as a college professor. And so that was one of the areas that I really enjoyed was electromagnetism. I absolutely loved Maxwell's equations, and I absolutely loved that whole philosophy of life. Well, when I learned that we're a walking battery, and that we have a huge electromagnetic field, I use that to everyone's advantage. I made sure that I bring an intensity and I bring a magnetism that is always with, I want to be in the highest and best good for all involved. So that means the person standing in front of me, that means me, and that means anyone that may be witnessing what is happening between the two of us. So may it be in the highest and best good for all involved.
Does that happen over Zoom too? Does it happen virtually?
Of course it does. We're electromagnetic. Space and time are man made. They don't really exist outside of a three-dimensional universe. I operate in four dimensions.
Wow. So
So do
for
you. So do you. It's just awareness. Are you aware that you operate in four dimensions? And how do you choose to interact with that? Yeah.
well, I'd like to ask you that question in a second. I'd like to ask you in a minute here the question of how can we cultivate that energy? How can
Mm,
we power ourselves as that battery in a way that we can help people
mhm,
that we come into contact with to heal or enjoy being around us or be more influential in that way, but really from the focus of helping other people heal as well. I'm sure the prerequisite is you yourself must heal and acknowledge what requires healing, but I could be wrong and I'll ask you that. But for those who are completely alien to this idea that we are a walking battery, it goes down to that quantum level, right? That if you put us all under that microscope and you zoom all the way in, right? It might be pretty basic sounding, but you zoom all the way in, we are all moving at a specific frequency, right? We are this field of energy and particles that is moving, and that's where the law of attraction comes into play, and like attracts like, and all that amazing stuff. But how can we cultivate that? And how can we become that beacon of healing when we enter a room or surround ourselves with other people who may need that healing?
Well, it starts off with, is that what you really want? I always ask, what do you want? And a lot of times people have a very difficult time cultivating that answer or acknowledging that answer or even articulating that answer. And so, whether I am working with people in a classroom setting and helping them with debt free living, or I'm talking about quantum mechanics and when we're going through Maxwell's equations before we get to quantum mechanics, okay, it doesn't matter. What is important is, what do you want out of life? What are the experiences you want? So, yeah, we can talk about how you personally, Brandon, can cultivate this, right? However, is that really what you want? What is the experiences that you want out of life? What do you want from life? And that's the most important question.
What do you want from life? So when you ask people that question and they're not quite sure what they want, and they
Mhm.
say, wow, Janine, no one's ever asked me that before. How do you help them to determine what that is?
Oh, I don't. That is a sacred conversation between you, yourself. What I say is, that's a sacred conversation between me, myself, and I. My job is not to lead you anywhere you don't want to go. And if you don't know where you want to go, I will not. I refuse to lead you anywhere or to be a guide or whatever kind of word you want to use with me. So if somebody goes, geez, Janine, nobody's ever asked me that before, I don't know, then I'm like, go think about that, go meditate, go contemplate whatever the paradigm is, go say your rosary 10 times. Everybody has their own philosophy on how they reach that inner knowledge. But you go think of, I most specifically don't say to men, go think about that, because men do that all the time anyway. They're always thinking anyway. I want you to drop down into what we call your heart chakra. I want you to go find out what will bring you the most excitement. What is it that's going to turn your enthusiasm button? Right? What is that that's going to really make it happen? And so I had one guy say, look, all I want is, I just want sex. I want it easy. I want to go get laid. And I'm like, well, then why aren't you in Las Vegas? There are women lining up. You pay them the right amount and it's legal and you don't go to jail for it. I'm like, what do
Yeah,
you want out of life? If you want to go and have sex with 300 women, that's how you go do it. Right? So those are the type of questions that sometimes are asked of me.
I love that. So I selfishly still want to ask you how you can be the person to be within 10 feet of somebody or whatever distance and have a positive impact on that person. And the reason I ask you this is selfishly, I want to be able to do that. but also for everyone listening, this audience these are people who are building their careers. These are people who have an idea of the path they're walking, and they're always looking for that next strategy to really spicing up their own experience of life. They want to be more influential. They want to become better communicators. They want to help people and serve people. So that's who we're talking to. So this idea that you can be within 10 feet of somebody who requires this healing and you're actually able to help them, that's fascinating to me. So if we go back to that question, maybe it doesn't really have an answer. Maybe it's something that must be cultivated over the course of decades. But how can you become that beacon of healing?
It is all based on your perception. So please realize I said if somebody is within 10 feet of me, the healing has already started. Like as soon as I know my electromagnetic field has moved into theirs. What I did not share with you was the night before I was deep in meditation, and I know that whoever is in that sacred ceremony, whether it's a Hogan, a teepee, or a sweat lodge, or a tepee, no matter what it is that we're in, that everyone that's supposed to be there will be there. And so they have literally called me into their lives, whether they know it consciously or unconsciously. So by the sheer fact of them attending that event, I know the healing has begun. Now, you used the word have a positive effect. I did not say that. Some
Mm.
people would say I have a very negative effect on people. I can be downright irritating, irrational, and freaking annoying to people who want to control me.
Mm. Yet you're still healing them.
But we are healing them because I am pointing out by just being present that they have control issues. They're trying to control something externally that is needed to be controlled within. It's not that they're wrong, they're absolutely right. If you don't know where the control mechanism is that you need, you will try to control what's external first rather than going to what is internal, what needs to be healed internally. And so my job as a mirror is to reflect back to you exactly what is the highest, biggest red button that says do not push. Uh, I go up and go, oh, look, a red button, push. Hence the job of the sacred clown.
Oh, fascinating. So you aren't essentially going up to that person though, and
No,
you're not poking their chest. You're not saying you
I'm
got.
not touching them in any way. I listen, my children are very aware of this. My 4 children, they have watched me walk into, let's say, a Walmart, for instance, and we're standing in line and people will line up behind me, turn an about face and walk away from me. They do not want to be in that energy because it forces you. The energy I carry forces you to look within. And if you are not happy with who you are, if you are not whole or complete, it will cause you to be triggered. And that's my job on this planet.
And that's the role that you took on intentionally.
I was offered the position. And when and when I said, "I don't wanna do that. I don't think I'm qualified. I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think I'm," right? The universe turned with me, and I like to say, and God batted his eyelashes at me and said, "Would you do it for me?" And blink, 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 blink. And I went, drat. Because I knew that someplace in the core of my being, my soul had said yes, even though I had no conscious memory of it. And pretty much every sacred clown I have run into, no matter what religion, no matter what, all have felt called to do this work, but we were tapped. We all felt like we got tapped on the shoulder, and the universe said, "You are needed. Will you step up?"
What was that tap for you again? What was that? I think you might have mentioned it a bit, but what was the actual tap that made you realize this was the path?
I had a spiritual experience where I was sitting in my living room reading, and this was what happened on December 26th of 2010. And like in the movie The Matrix, you know how the wall wobbles, like there's a bubble around it or what have you?
Yeah.
That happened. And I was like, whoa. And I had been meditating for over 25 years. I've been doing a lot of self development. So this didn't happen overnight. And that wall happened. And there was a huge beacon of light that shattered that aspect of reality. And as a physicist, my analytical brain went into high gear and went, oh my God, I'm looking into the fourth dimension because I know it's light. There's a light barrier between 3 dimensions and fourth dimensions. And so this light happened, and then out walked Jesus the Christ. And I'm like, whoa, as a Catholic, that's pretty big guns to have that happen to you. And then I also had Paramahansa Yogananda show up, and Paramahansa Yogananda was my Eastern guru. And so one was holding my right hand, the other was holding my left hand, and I was given my spiritual dispensation, and I was given a choice. Do you want to take the red pill or do you want to take the blue pill? And I used the matrix a lot because that was how it was for me. And after that, you are reborn and you go through a transformative experience where you are shown reality. It is uncomfortable, it is not pleasant. And I think the matrix states it and shows it very well. Every mystic that is whole and complete that I have run into, that is self actualized, that is self aware, that has had that experience and was born before the year 2000. I'm sorry I have to use all these qualifications, but it's true. Before the year 2000, you were born and you woke up. We went through that because we were still very much in the age of Pisces, and pain and trauma was required to move through that experience. So the way that they show Neo in the Matrix, having the mirror come in through his mouth and coming out, and how he goes through that transformation is quite literally true.
Wow.
So, as a sacred clown, when people say, well, I don't want to hurt your feelings, I look at them and can say in total honesty, not possible.
Huh. So let's go back to you with these individuals who might turn around if they're behind you in line and walk away. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
my question with that is that cultivated in the moment, or is that cultivated in the preparation of the moment? Because you said it started the night before during my meditation, where these people, whether they know it or not, invited me to be there.
Correct.
So
Correct.
what percentage is the preparation? What's the importance of the preparation versus being there in that moment? Or are they interconnected, intertwined?
Yes to all the above. So forgive me, but this is a physics thing that we're talking about. You're talking about quantum mechanics, quantum energies, which are all possibilities happen and are possible, but are, as you move closer and closer to a moment, as you move closer to that moment, more and more opportunities and options drop away. And they talk about this in the law of attraction, only they don't use physics. um, so what they talk about is you have all these possibilities and potentials, and they all drop away as you're collapsing what we call the wave function down into particles. And the more you go out of the realm of potentiality and more into collapsing that wave function down into particle manifestation, the fewer particles or options that you have available. So when you're walking down a grocery store line and you're trying to figure out which cashier you want to get behind, you are making choices upon choices. And as you go further and further down, your potentials are dropping significantly because you went from 11 lanes to 5 lanes to 3 lanes. So in that moment, it happened. Now, where does the preparation start? The preparation started when you first woke up in the morning. Were you in a good mood? Were you in a bad mood? If you were in a bad mood and you hung on to that bad mood, you get behind a sacred clown and they show you just how difficult life can be. If you're in a good mood, you end up behind a sacred clown and they look at you and they smile and they go, hey, how you doing? And you're like, oh my God, today's fantastic. And you have somebody there that's receptive and warm and really wanting to hear about your fantastic day.
Oh my God. Okay. So is there, when it comes to the inner workings of you using this, so let's say everyone listening, they're not physicists, right? They don't understand these quantum mechanics, but they do understand if you do this, you get this result, right? Is it about preparing yourself mentally in the morning and priming yourself for a good day that in turn changes many, if not all, of the circumstances of the remainder of that day? Does it start in the morning, or is it a culmination of all of your experiences up to this moment, or both?
You're 33% there. You started off with, do you mentally prepare? And this is very common with men because men are very much in their head. And one of the hardest trips and journeys men have is that 12 inches between their heart and their head. Okay. Now, if you're an alpha male and you are harmonized, then you are incredibly sensitive, but you're also very competitive and conquering and you want to control. Okay. So I love working with alpha males because I'm like, I totally get where they are in that regard. And about 10% of our population is alpha. Okay.
Yeah.
And so one of the things with that is when you get up in the morning, how do you feel? Now, I don't ask a man that unless I've made an appointment with them, because most of the time men like to stay in their head, and I like to treat men with respect. And so I always say, "May I have an appointment with you? I'd like to talk to you about how you feel about something, and I'd like an appointment." That way, they can stay in their rational head. They're not being forced into their other lobe, and I am showing them the highest level of respect I know how to give them. Okay. So that's one of the kind of rules. With a woman, you always say, how do you feel? And then you ask for an appointment to talk to her about her feelings, especially if she's at work. Because at work, guess what? We have to be masculine.
Oh,
All
interesting.
right. So
You
there's this
still have
male
to make an
female.
appointment with women as well.
Yes. You want to treat people with as much respect and cherish them as much as you possibly can. So those are the yin and yang symbols. And so there's several paradigms that we can talk to about that. So in the morning, back to your question, I wanted to set up the paradigm and we'll
Yeah.
go back to the question and answer it. So the paradigm is we're all male, we're all female. Okay. And we switch back and forth depending upon what is happening. And so for you, and since I'm on your show, we're going to talk to you, Brandon. What I would recommend for you in the morning is when you first wake up, pop into your heart chakra. How do I feel today? And then, how am I doing today? Doing is your head. How do I feel is my heart. And I love men because, and women do this too, by the way, but mostly men. They say to me, I feel that. And I'm like, that's not a feeling. That's not an emotion. That is not an emotion. That's them trying to round robin me and not share with me their emotions, sad, glad, happy, enthusiastic, eager. These are these are states of being, right? So your mood will determine and kind of dictate how your day is going to go. And that's very much the law of attraction, the stories of Abraham, Esther, and Jerry Hicks, when they were talking about you have a navigational system and that is your emotions. Well, women, we are awash in emotions as soon as we have our first menses, even before. It's like the hormones are crazy, and men, they have the testosterone, and it's like just anything that walks, please, somebody, I just want to be physically close to you. Let me give you what I got, you know. And so I have a lot of compassion for both sexes as we try to navigate in the common world. So how do you be that person? Well, it comes back to what kind of experiences do you want in life? That is going to dictate how you wake up in the morning and how you plan, not your day from a logical, goal oriented process, which I do, by the way. I have a 5-year plan. I'm very male in that regard. I have my action plan, blah, blah, blah. But when I first wake up in the morning, I always go, wow, I get another day. See, I've had to stand in the face of death 5 times in my life. And I have always wake up and go, damn, I'm still here. I get another day. And that is incredibly annoying to anyone who's not having a good life right now.
Huh. Well, I mean, it's like a perpetuating cycle, though, for that person who does wake up and they're not saying, oh, I get another day. They wake up and maybe the first thing they do is they go on social media and they read a bad news story, or they go on their calendar and they see it chock full of things that they don't want to do, that doesn't bring them joy. Then they just get immediately placed into that cycle of not feeling great. And then they go throughout their day. And even if the circumstances that they're living with now are better than what the circumstances could be, they don't know that because this is the life that they're living now. And then they go to bed and they wake up and they do it again and they do it again and they do it again. And I don't think that's as much for the people listening to this, because if you're listening to this, then you likely have said to yourself, I want to continue improving myself and my life and my circumstances. So I don't think it's the person listening, but they are wondering, is there something I can do to heighten that frequency? Because it sounds like you waking up in the morning and saying, I'm grateful for another day, you're immediately heightening your frequency. So now you're attracting all these different things than the person who wakes up and they're like, I feel okay today. I guess I'll start my day and I'll get ready. And it's a very different energy level there.
So you're about 98% there. So I'm going to do a little fine tuning with you. And of
Please.
course, realize my 100% is not your 100%. Right? So that's why I use numbers so much, is because especially when I'm speaking with men, they're highly analytical, and we can connect very, very well there. And you always giggle every time I give you a number because you're like, I know exactly where I am with her.
Yes. Yep.
And that's a comfort, isn't it? We're communicating. And so I try to fit in with whatever that other individual needs. But you're 98% there because you use the word grateful. And the attitude is gratitude is a very common thing that you hear. And I just want to let you know, hey, that beats where we were with the age of Pisces and people having bomb shelters in the 1950s. We're grateful to be alive. A lot of times you've just come through a scrape. Realize grateful, or the word gratitude, actually means you've overcome something and you're like, whew, so grateful to be out of that mess. It actually carries in a little bit of that negative energy that you don't necessarily want. So it's better. It's better than where you were. So first of all, I just want to say it's better than where you were. And so we want to keep you there. However, for you, Brandon, specifically for you and anybody who identifies and feels harmonious with this, what we're talking about, if it resonates, that's the word I was seeking, then you want to start using the word appreciate. I appreciate each moment. I appreciate the fact that I looked at my calendar and went, I have a podcast that I'm supposed to be ready for at 7 a.m. and it is 5:30. I got to get a move on. I got to get, it's like I was a little bit in a rush to get ready, but I was eager. I was enthusiastic. I was excited because I got to be on Brandon's show. And I knew I was going to be able to speak to people. I was going to be able to make the world a better place. It was totally in alignment with everything that I set up for December 26th of 2010, when I said, okay, yes, I'll take the pill and I'll figure out what reality really is and see what I can do to make the world a better place, one person at a time.
Are you able to cultivate that appreciation authentically if you haven't yet been tapped on the shoulder, or if you haven't yet decided what it is that you want?
What is your definition for authentic? I hear that word bandied about a lot, and I
Yes.
always am very cautious before I answer that question.
I appreciate you asking. So, I mean, when you look at the podcast, you looked at it and you said, okay, 7 a.m., that's really early, but it gives me the opportunity to share my message and help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else might look at it, or a meeting on their schedule that they might not necessarily want to go to, and they might say, oh, another meeting. I should be appreciative of this because it means I have a good job. And I guess the frame of mind I'll look at it with is I appreciate that this meeting is here and that I still have the job. Like, there's a very different level of truism and authenticity with the way that you looked at it versus someone who knows that the right thing to do is to be grateful. I should be grateful about this. It's just a very different level of authenticity.
Right. Well, for people who use the words should have, could have, would have, you're living in the past. You need to get into the present. You're in the past. And the past is not a fun place to be, as we all know. It sucks to be there. Why? Because you're disempowered. You have no power in the past. You have no power in the future. And as Eckhart Tolle talks about in The Power of Now and the New Earth, all of our power is in this moment. In this moment is all you have. Because then when you move to the next moment, that's the next moment. You're 100% powerful in this moment. You can make your choice in this moment. And then as soon as you say, I should have, I could have, I would have, oh man, you're in the past and it sucks to be back there. Because dude, I don't know about you, but I have made plenty of mistakes in my life that I just really, I've learned from them. I've integrated the lessons. I've moved forward and I am a much better person for them. But does that mean I want to hang out there and live in that space? The answer is not only no, Hades, no. I don't want to be there. That is not a fun place. Yeah.
So if there's no value in the past, there is value in looking forward and creating, like what you mentioned, a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan.
Okay, so there is value in the past. So forgive me for picking on your words, but I've learned English 3 different ways and words have power. And
Mm.
so I understand as a podcaster, you're just trying to keep the conversation going in a direction that will help others. So there is value in the past, but I choose not to live there.
Okay.
Okay. I have received value. I have learned lessons from my mistakes. I have done some humdingers. I have done things. Am I proud? No. However, I learned something because I came to this life to experience as much of the human drama as I possibly could without dying, without doing things illegally and immorally and unethically. I've tried to be a quote, quote, good person through that, but my idea of what is a good person changed from ages 3 to age 10 to age 16 to age 22, and I'm now on my 59th birthday. So, it's changed as I've gone through those life experiences.
Okay. No, I appreciate you picking on that because that is a very important distinction. Is is there value in an appreciation, or I know we're using that word instead of gratitude, but is there value in a practice of gratitude or appreciation on a daily basis? So as an example, is appreciation and gratitude a muscle that can be built, or is it either there or not there?
Okay. I'm going to answer your question now that we've had a lot of fun playing together, which is something that a sacred clown will do. We'll spin you around in circles till you're dizzy and then say, okay, now I'll answer your question. And why do we do that? We use shock value, which is, we do something that's shocking that causes you to like have that pattern interrupt. And the reason we do that is because in that moment of shock, you are now receptive to a message that you would not have been in any other way. So
Mhm.
be aware of that when you're with clowns, that is part of their job, is to shock you, and in that moment they can then give you the gift of what they have to offer, which is a truth that is for you. Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
going to answer your question about the practice. There is always value in something that makes you feel better. So if you are listening to this and you just started the gratitude journal and you started that and you're like, oh my gosh, and then I listened to this crazy chick that decided to tell me that appreciation is the word, oh, I've done it all wrong, blah blah. No, you were receiving comfort. You were receiving an elevation of where you were and being grateful for something. Listen, I use the word grateful, especially when I almost was involved in a car wreck and an 18 wheeler saw me in the rearview mirror, went over onto the rumble strip and allowed me to get by him so we didn't have a 5-car pileup. I am grateful. Why? Because I just came through what could have potentially have been a very big life altering moment.
Yeah.
So I am grateful. But when it comes to you are trying to reach the highest level, the highest frequency you can reach, that's where you really watch your word choice, and that's appreciation. Because to appreciate something doesn't mean it necessarily needs to exist. Like, I appreciate the fact I have an abundant life. Notice I didn't say I appreciate the fact I have $33 million that isn't in my checking account yet. No, I said, I appreciate the fact I have an abundant life. I have money that comes to me from sources I don't even know. I have avenues and pathways of financial freedom that I was unaware of 5 years ago. So, those are the things that you use for appreciation. Appreciation does not require the manifestation to be present in your moment as you are reaching toward a new expansion that we like to call goal setting.
Oh man, I love that. There's so
Yeah.
much I want to talk to you about in so many different directions. Like we haven't even talked about like healing totems and the
Mhm.
even the I believe it's called the medicine wheel. We haven't talked about, but that's okay because life will continue to go on, hopefully, and I can have you
Yes.
back on the show because I want to continue this conversation. But I really want to talk about because it sounds like it's along the same vein of what we're talking about now. Your book that just released, which
Oh,
again is called Creating with the
yep.
Divine, and you have it with you. Yep, it looks beautiful cover, by the way. Very
Thank you.
vibrant. I would feel good picking up that book to read it,
Oh, yeah.
which is important to me. So talk to me. Is that book on a similar vein to what we're talking about now? And maybe I would just like to hear you just give us an idea of what inspired the book and what can we expect from it.
Creating with the Divine is a book that took 10 years to get enough permissions to finally be able to bring a paradigm forward from the Native American tradition um, that was a part of the Seneca tribe and the Iroquois nation. So, or Iroquois. This is where pronunciation is ticklish for me because I've learned English so many different ways. Um, So I may say Iroquois, and for anybody who knows better, educate me and send me a video, and I will learn that word. But the Iroquois Nation is a confederacy of 5 different tribes, and the woman that I partnered with by the name of Reno Longmoons is of the Seneca, and she also has Cherokee. So we teasingly, now she came up with this word, not me. We call her a Seneca because instead of a Seneca, because she has the Seneca and the Cherokee. So anywho, with the Iroquois Nation, they have a story called Jumping Mouse. And it is how the Matrix is a paradigm of the path of the hero, like Joseph Campbell talks about, only you're following Neo as he learns what reality is. Jumping Mouse is the same sort of thing as a story. Now, one of the things we wanted to do is, according to the traditions that some people go by, you're not allowed to write that story down. You have to say it verbally, and it's preferable that you are in a setting where people are receptive and all that. So we had to write the book with a lot of audio files attached to it because we wanted to honor the verbal tradition that these stories have been told for, well, I say thousands of years because we really don't know. We really don't know how long they've been told. But it is the path of the hero story, and it's following Mouse from mouse to jumping mouse until when he is transformed into eagle. And so, as we move through that story, we talk about how you, as using Brandon as his physical description right now, with the physical covering as his avatar, as this brown-eyed, white-faced man, how can you use what is in Jumping Mouse in a modern world where we are using Wi-Fi to travel the globe? We are able to be on Zoom with anyone in any nation that has a connection. How does Jumping Mouse work in the modern world? And then we talk about that paradigm and how you implement that. And it's a way of seeing people that come into your life and leave your life, and how they leave blessings no matter how traumatic the event may be.
Oh my God, I can't wait to get this book.
If you buy the book through the link that's going to be underneath the show notes, you will also have access to 4 workshops for free. So that's why the book is $40, or 45. Forgive me. I'm sorry. We had Stripe, and we had some expenses that it's more than 40, but I can't remember the exact number right
Sure.
now. But you also get the 4 workshops as well with that book, because we want to bring the teachings to you and out, as we say, away from the campfire and into the Zoom room.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I've never read a book before that's accompanied by audio messages,
Mhm.
that especially audio messages that are telling ancient stories that we've probably never heard because they're not written down anywhere. So it sounds like this truly is one of a kind, and it sounds like it's
Yeah.
more of not just a book that you're reading, but more of an experience that you get to walk along with.
Exactly. So the 4 workshops that come with the book are about transformation, self-identification, how to release head trash. Those are all very modern terms, but we talk about them in alignment with the story of Jumping Mouse. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. So for everyone, again, the name of that book, it just launched. Go grab your copy. Links are in the description. Creating with the Divine by Janine Bolon. Janine, this has been an awesome conversation. Okay, truly, like awesome conversation. Very different conversation that went in a lot of different directions like we thought it would, but had an underlying theme to it of becoming the best you, how to prepare yourself for a great day to raise your vibration. But also, you said that you wouldn't take people by the hand to tell them and show them what they want. But I feel like this conversation in itself may have helped people to determine what the next path for themselves is. So I feel like you indirectly led people on that path, but you might disagree with that. I'm not sure, but this was very fun. And I want to
Okay.
know, where can people continue to follow you if they want to see what you're up to, see what the next books are? Where do you hang out?
One of the best ways to get a hold of me is to go on to LinkedIn and connect with me as Janine Bolon, Bolon. You'll see the woman with the headphones on the profile picture. So a member of my team will invite you to my Open Friday coffee, and you are welcome to have a conversation with me there. And as far as the book, Reno Longmoons is my co-author, and she's the Seneca shaman, and I'm a cosmic clown. And so the two of us put that book together, and you can go to thepracticalmystics.com, and that's where you can find that book.
I love that. Super cool. Links will be in the description, guys, for you to go connect with Janine to see what she's up to. And It was a pleasure having you on the show. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I can't wait to have you back. And I truly mean that. We're going to make it happen.
Thank you very much, and I just wanted to let you know, Brian or Brandon, I'm sorry, I said Brian.
That's
I
the
just
shock
wanted
value.
to just wanted to let you know, Brandon, that I always love a stage, and thank you for allowing me to perform. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Bye. This has been a stimulating conversation. And I think that's the first time I ever said that on the show, because as you can tell from that, I'm sure that there wasn't a moment where your mind wandered. I'm sure that you were kept engaged that whole time because of the way that Janine communicates. And it's very clear to see that it's very intentional, the way that Janine communicates, especially to me. But even though she was speaking to me at certain points, I know that you were following along with that as well, and that it reached you at the same time, just knowing that you're a very similar archetype to myself. And I hope that this conversation helped you. I hope that it helps you to feel great throughout the day. I hope that it helps you to be more aware of maybe those blind spots that someone like Janine in your presence might help you to heal, right? I hope it has helped you learn more about these nuances of vibration that all of us are, these walking energy fields, and how you can use that in order to truly create the life that you desire. And if it did help you, then please share this episode with just one other person who would find value in Janine's banter with myself. I hope it helped. If it did, let me know what you thought in the comments. And in the show notes, you will find links for Janine's newest book, Creating with the Divine, as well as where you can follow Janine to be a part of her world. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.